The first thing she noticed wasn't the gun, it was the hesitation. A flicker in the stranger's eyes as he stepped into her living room like a man rehearsing a lie. The rain outside pressed against the windows in frantic whispers, drowning out the sound of her pulse climbing into her throat. He had chosen the wrong night, she realized. The wrong woman. Because while her husband believed she was soft-spoken, predictable, breakable, he had forgotten something dangerous. A woman who survives betrayal once does not fear it the second time. And when the gun finally rose between them, it wasn't fear that steadied her hands. It was clarity. The man said her name like a question. Karen. She didn't answer. He closed the door behind him. That was his first mistake. Her husband, Daniel, always left doors open. Careless. Overconfident. Certain the world bent around his charm. The stranger moved forward slowly, gun trembling just enough for her to see he wasn't used to killing women who looked him in the eye. "Don't make this hard," he muttered. Hard. Karen almost smiled. Because she already knew. 3 nights earlier, she had seen the message on Daniel's second phone, the one he thought she didn't know about. Half now. Half after it's done. Attached, her photograph. Taken from across the street. Taken by someone who had been watching. She hadn't screamed. She hadn't confronted him. She had simply waited. And now here he was. "Did he tell you why?" she asked softly. The assassin blinked. "What? Did my husband tell you why he wants me dead?" The question unsettled him. That was mistake number 2. He adjusted his grip. She stepped back, not in fear, but toward the kitchen counter. He followed. Mistake number 3. The kitchen light flickered once before steadying. Thunder cracked overhead. For a moment, they both flinched. That was all she needed. Her hand moved fast, not toward him, but sideways. The heavy cast-iron skillet swung with brutal precision, connecting with his wrist. The gun clattered across the tiles. He cursed, lunging. She didn't hesitate. Years ago, before Daniel, before marriage softened her edges, Karen had trained in self-defense after surviving a violent robbery in university. Daniel never cared to know that part of her story. He liked her gentler. Smaller. The assassin grabbed her throat. She drove her knee upward, hard. Air left his body in a broken gasp. They crashed against the counter. A knife block toppled. He reached for the fallen gun. She reached for the knife. Time slowed. His fingers brushed the weapon. Her hand closed around the blade. When he turned back toward her, it was already too late. The knife sank in once. Then twice. The hesitation in his eyes vanished, replaced by shock. He collapsed at her feet. The rain kept falling. For a long moment, Karen just stood there, breathing. Then she picked up the gun and wiped it clean. Not out of panic. Out of understanding. Daniel would expect confirmation. Proof. She looked at the body. An idea began to bloom, slow, cold, brilliant. 2 hours later, Daniel's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stepped out of his office party to answer it. "It's done," Karen said calmly. Silence. Then a shaky breath. "What?" "You were right," she continued, her voice hollow. "He came. I had no choice. I killed him." The line went dead. Daniel stood frozen beneath the neon bar lights. Killed him? That wasn't the plan. He drove home recklessly, mind racing. This was messy. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. When he arrived, police cars already lined the street. Blue and red lights painted the rain in violent colors. Karen sat on the front steps wrapped in a blanket, eyes wide, trembling perfectly. An officer approached Daniel. Sir, your wife acted in self-defense. The intruder is dead. Daniel swallowed. Self-defense. The word echoed. He forced himself to look shocked. Devastated. Protective. He rushed to her side. She looked up at him slowly. And for the first time in their marriage, he felt something unfamiliar in her gaze. Not fear. Not love. Knowledge. The investigation moved quickly. Forced entry. Unknown assailant. Clean self-defense. Case closed. Except for one small problem. The police found a second phone in the assassin's pocket. Burner. Recent transactions. Half payment received. From an account that traced back, through a digital laundering chain, to Daniel. He didn't know she had forwarded the screenshots to herself 3 days ago. He didn't know she had called a lawyer before calling the police. He didn't know she had already prepared. The arrest happened quietly. White-collar crime unit. Conspiracy to commit murder. Daniel didn't resist. He just kept staring at her as they placed him in the back of the car. You set me up, he whispered. Karen stepped closer, rain misting her hair. No, she said gently. You did. The door slammed. Weeks later, Karen stood alone in the same living room. The floors were clean now. The walls repainted. The house silent. She picked up Daniel's wedding ring from the coffee table and rolled it between her fingers before dropping it into a glass of water. It sank instantly. Heavy. Like secrets always do. She hadn't planned revenge. But once she knew he wanted her dead, survival became strategy. And strategy became power. Daniel had hired a killer. But he forgot something simple. The most dangerous woman in any room is the one everyone underestimates. The courtroom emptied in fragments of murmurs and echoing footsteps. Daniel never looked back when they led him away. But she did. She watched the doors swing shut behind him with a softness that almost resembled grief. Almost. Outside, the sky hung low and gray, mirroring the night everything changed. Reporters shouted her name. Cameras flashed. Survivor. Brave wife. Victim. She lowered her eyes at the right moments. Let a single tear fall. Timing was everything. That night, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. The living room had been cleaned months ago, but she could still remember exactly where the body had fallen. Exactly where the blood had spread in delicate, branching lines across the marble. She walked to the bookshelf. Ran her fingers along the spine of a thick, dustless novel. Paused. Pressed. A soft click echoed through the room. A small compartment opened behind the shelf. Inside was a second phone. Not Daniel's. Hers. She picked it up, her expression changing, not relief, not triumph, but something colder. Something older. The screen lit up. One unread message. From an unsaved number. Payment received. I didn't expect you to turn the tables like that. Impressive. Her thumb hovered. Then she typed. He was getting suspicious. I had to accelerate the timeline. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. And the first one? Was that also part of the plan? She stared at that message for a long time. The rain began again, soft, deliberate. Finally, she replied. Daniel always thought he married beneath him. He never asked who I was before we met. She powered the phone off. Removed the battery. Dropped both into the fireplace. Flames swallowed them slowly. She stood there, watching the fire. No trembling. No tears. Just clarity. On the mantel sat a framed wedding photo. Daniel smiling confidently. Her leaning gently into him, eyes soft. Submissive. Unassuming. Underestimated. She picked up the frame. Tilted it slightly. Behind it, taped carefully out of sight, was an older photograph. Another man. Another wedding ring. Another obituary clipping folded neatly beneath it. Cause of death, home invasion. Self-defense. She smiled, not wide, not wild, but knowing. Some women survive betrayal. Others anticipate it. And as the flames reflected in her eyes, one truth settled into the silence. Daniel hadn't hired a killer. He had stepped into a game already in progress.